Guys, gals, and pals, welcome to Paint and Talk episode 6. As always, I hope you had the most amazing 24 hours in your life, like ever. Like I hope the last 24 hours since you watched the last Paint and Talk has simply been, like I hope you met the Queen of England. Oh, she's not around anymore. The King? What are they doing in England right now? Do they have a guy? Is it a guy doing it right now? Is he the one in... What happened to kings and queens? I thought they were a package deal. Why? I hope you met the King of Spain. They have one of those, right? Man. I hope you met the most local royalty near you and they gave you $1 million. I hope that's what happened to you in the last 24 hours. I've had a pretty good 24 hours. I have. With some exceptions, namely the exception being right now, I'm very tired, and I'm probably going to be all over the place today because of that. So I'm sorry about that in advance. This is full transparency, second take recording this. First one, I don't know, I felt like I was trying to like bite off more than I could chew in it, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't being quite as relaxed as I wanted to be, and I was also like having these long, like 3-minute long pauses to gather my thoughts. And I was like, I always wanted these to be authentic, and it came to a point where the tiredness that I had was making it so it was a much less authentic thing to watch, I guess. Cause like, you know, I want this to be free flowing. I want to mess up kind of like I just did there, saying that England has a queen. Maybe they do, maybe that wasn't a mess up. But, like, either way, I want to be stuff like that, and me sitting for 3 minutes and gathering my thoughts is very much not that. So I wanted to end up re-recording, you know? And while I do this, I want to talk about honesty, right? Because honesty is probably, like, the most important thing to me. And there's kind of two parts to this. The first part that I want to talk about is, like, relatively short. But I feel like we're in... And there's been a million think pieces and video essays on this, and I really am not interested in doing anything like that, just because I don't know. I'm not about to write something down about this. You know what I mean? But I'm interested in it. That I feel like we're in like an age where we can't have honest conversations anymore. And the reason, especially too, that I'm not going to do a long form kind of discussion of this in a video somewhere, like an edit it, which would get a lot of views because it's like kind of, I think, is still a hot topic to an extent, is because I think it's kind of healing itself. Like, I actually do think that it's kind of getting better, weirdly enough. I remember the first time I noticed this was back in like 2016, right? I think I watched like a Genius interview of some up-and-coming artist at the time, and it just didn't feel real to me. I don't remember who it was, and I don't remember why I felt that way, but it just like glaringly felt like this person didn't want you to know that they were trying. You know what I mean? And I think like, I'm pretty sure it's in like the 48 Laws of Power, one of those books that's like, do a ton of work and claim that you didn't try at all. And I remember like seeing all these people pretending that they don't try, pretending that everything just comes easy to them. And when you first see all these successful people doing that, of course you're like, man, like I must just suck if they're not even trying and doing better than me in life, you know? And then I realized, wait, they are trying, they're just pretending they're not. And listen, there's something to be said for that, by the way. I don't mean to, that's not a blanket statement at all. You know, sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you gotta make it seem like you're not doing your best when you really are trying the hardest. Like, obviously, that's a mechanism of life to an extent, but there's also times where it's like it almost felt like people were scared to say that, like, no, I'm passionate about this thing, I really love this thing, and I wake up and try all day about it, you know? Like, I love it so much, it's what I live for. I feel like I was seeing so little of that. Maybe it was, you know, just the ecosystem I was in. People weren't saying that around me. I was obviously a lot younger than I am now in 2016, so maybe it has something to do with that. But I remember it really bothering me at the time when I was young. Little kid me was very much bothered by that, because I was like, wait, like, why can't we say we're passionate anymore? I think maybe, so context, I loved action figures till I was like very old. I love action figures. I'd still, you know, if I had the expendable finances, I'd still be buying an action figure right now. You know what I mean? And I remember one time, like I was talking about, I think it was like action figures or comic books, some nerd stuff to one of my friends at lunch. And they were like, you know, like it's kind of cringe how much you like think about this or like care about this. And I think that's why it bothered me. And this isn't me trying to do like some like, oh, I was bullied thing. I wasn't at all. It was just my friend like trying to act cool, you know, when like you go to school one day and your friend's like just trying to act a little cool. It was one of those days. And I remember being like, wait, like as much as that's, you know, he was just being a little mean guy, and I'm not gonna like dwell on it. Well, here I am 10 years later, so I guess I did dwell on it. But as much as like I'm not gonna take it for more than it is, it kind of is weird that like it's cringy that to this person or to anyone that I care about something that much. Shouldn't that be cool? Like if someone came up to me and was like, I love this thing and I think about it all day and I love it, I would be like, tell me more, tell me about it, you know? That's the coolest thing to me, is when someone's passionate. And I remember that was the first time I was really thinking like, wait, do we not have honest conversations anymore? I think it was the collaboration between those two things, you know, of like seeing this interview with this artist who had to pretend he wasn't trying at all and didn't even want to be there. And and my friend being like, oh, it's annoying that you like this thing that much, that you try hard, right? And oh, that was the other thing that was huge at that time. Maybe I'm a little late on this actually. Maybe it wasn't 2016, but I feel like it was around that time in my life that the term try hard and sweat were really popular too. And I was like, I don't know, all these things were just coming together to be like, man, like you can't just say you love something anymore. You can't just be super passionate anymore. You gotta like put up all these barriers. And I've never done anything about it. Obviously, what am I gonna do? But over time, I've realized this manifesting itself in like small little ways, to the point where I feel like right now, like we're in like a deeply inauthentic area, especially, and I want to preface that I don't say this in terms of like people aren't having real conversations, in terms of like I'm trying to go up to all my friends and start up deep conversations. Not at all. But isn't it a little weird that when one of your friends is mad at you, they don't go like, dude, I'm annoyed at you. Instead, they're just like, I'm low-key a little upset about this thing. A little. Like they can't, no one is willing to just say like, that makes me happy. It's gotta be like, oh, this is sick. This is kind of cool. Like we have such, and some of it's 100% just slang. Some of it's just people, you know, internet slang coming into the real world. 100%, some of it is. Not even gonna pretend that's not like, at least 40% of this, but some of it is like cloaking emotions. You know, I've known people who like whenever they gotta let you down, say you're like, oh, you down to come to the thing this weekend, and they don't want to like, they're scared to say no. They'll be like, not gonna lie, I don't think so, low key. And it's like, just say no, I'm busy. That's like, it's, and I think that's more so what I'm talking about. That's where it manifests itself. Not so much in like these giant deep conversations, but more so in tiny little moments of like you're scared to say how you really feel 100% for fear of being vulnerable in any capacity, even small capacities, such as like I'm upset, I'm happy, I'm sad. You're scared of that too. And I realized that I was talking like that, or I guess kind of like hiding behind emotions in that way, or hiding behind words to cloak emotions in that way. I realized that a couple of years ago. Honestly, no, it was probably about a year ago, if I'm being honest. And that's when I was like, man, like, that's so interesting that I'm scared to be real. And like unknowingly scared too. I think that's why it got to me so much, is because it's like I didn't even know that I was doing this But now that I see it, I can't unsee it, you know? Now that I see like that I'm kind of, like every time I got something to say that I kind of don't want to put out there 100%, I use 100 filler words in front of it. And once I realized that, I was like, man, like it maybe got me to look way too deep into it, to be honest. Maybe I kind of psychoanalyze myself like in some weird way that I didn't need to. But I don't know, it got me really thinking about like what's going on here? What's like the real story? And for better or for worse, I think the way that I've kind of, what would be the word? Combated? I don't know if combated is the best word for that, but the way that I've kind of dealt with it maybe is being like hyper honest now. At least when I'm conscious of it, you know, sometimes you just aren't. That's kind of the way I've worked around it. And then it got me thinking more about honesty, I want to say, because I realized that like there are some areas where we're not being 100% as honest as we could be. They're really going to catch up with us someday, you know? And I think this is why I stopped the first recording, because I couldn't find a good way to put this that didn't sound unsavory. Because I don't mean to say that we're all lying, but to an extent we are, aren't we? You know, like I'm sitting here right now wearing this crew neck with you know, a microphone on, did my hair a certain way, took a while to get it right today, and you know, got in front of the camera, turned on the lights. And you got to ask the question of how much of this is honest, right? Me doing my hair 3 times to like get it right today because I went out into the rain 2 times. Like, that's not honest. The honest thing would be to show up as raw and as vulnerable as possible. But that's also just not a good thing to do. You know, I want to look presentable. And that's not dishonest, but it is. It's a lie. It's saying that I was more presentable than I was, you know? Or that I'm not tired, or that I'm not a little bit not put together under the surface. You know, we all are. And it makes me think, you know, there's that one new Tyler, the Creator song on his last album that came out back in October, or like November. I don't remember when it came out 100%, where it's like, take your mask off. I think that's what it is more so. We're all kind of wearing a mask in one way or another, whether it manifests itself in me doing my hair because I'm really scared of having a bad hair day, which I'm kind of having right now, or me drawing attention to the fact that I did my hair 3 times to try and like disclose it, to make it seem more normal when that never would have happened 100%. These are areas of masking in a way. And I know masking is not the right term. I know that's actually a term for when someone like has like a genuine social thing that they have to like fully turn down. I just can't think of the word 100%, so I'm using masking a little bit metaphorically, I guess. You know, like areas like that where it's like you're not being 100% honest. And I think the biggest area where I noticed this, where I was like, I gotta do something about that, was in interpersonal relationships. And it's one of those areas where you don't realize you're lying until you really like have to face it yourself, you know? And again, I don't mean lying in the sense of like telling like full-on lies of like, oh, I'm 6'10" and have like a washboard 6-pack of abs. Not like that. More so, you know, someone's like, oh, you want to go hang out this weekend with them and, you know, them, and you don't really like them and them. But this isn't a non-binary person I'm making fun of. I'm just using like a random, like, you know, that group, them. You want to hang out with them, you don't really like them, but you're like, yeah, I'll go, I want to, you know, I love them. Like that kind of thing, where it's like, that's not a lie, but it's also like, that's not what you want to do. You don't love those people. Areas like that in interpersonal relationships. And when you find a person who does that like times 10, it really is like kind of casts a mirror and makes you realize every little time that you do it. And then for me, in my personal experience, what I started to notice was like just because I knew that person would lie in little areas, it made me think maybe they're lying in big ones too, you know? For an example, let's say I'm talking to you, like, you like this crew neck, and you hate the crew neck. And instead of being like, it's not my favorite, you know, I'm not saying you gotta be rude, but, you know, if you're, instead of going, it's not my favorite, you go, yeah, you rock it. Things like that eventually build up into like, can I trust this person with anything? You know what I mean? And that's when I really started to realize that not so much that lying is bad, because again, that's not necessarily lying as much as it's not being 100% honest. But that's when I realized that like really harsh honesty is like not only great but necessary. And this is something I struggle with for years, because to give a little background, around like 14, 15, I prided myself on being like the honest guy. Like I was like, always tell you how it is. Like I was one of those guys. And then like after a year or so of that, I was like, wait, I'm kind of just being like a jerk sometimes. Like sometimes there's a nice way to put things. So I think I swung far in the other direction, where I was being like, oh no, I should be really nice. I should be kind no matter what. Like I should always just like, you know, suck up to people, kind of tell them I love their crew neck, even if it's not the best crew neck. I'm not insecure with this crew neck. It really seems like that now. So I went in the other direction, and then eventually I realized, like, no, you can do both. There is a middle ground of being as honest as possible, but also being enough of a nuanced communicator where you have the ability to go, it's not my favorite crew neck, but if you like it, you should totally wear it. That's a very valid and good thing to say. And what I noticed is after I really started doing that, I had more and more people coming to me and going like, oh, I know you're going to give me your real opinion. Like, what do you think? And then it turned into this complex on honesty that I have, that I call it a complex because it's kind of irrational, to be honest. I think about this to an irrational extent. It's probably not true at all, but I am really into it, where I have this like theory, kind of. Is it a theory? I don't know. I think that honest people go the furthest. And I mean honest in everything, you know? Honest in like so this is like my personal philosophy that I don't think is even provable or true, but in my gut, I think if I don't paint exactly what I want to on this canvas every day, no matter how good, bad, or ugly it is, I will be less successful than if I were to show up and be honest on the canvas every single day. I genuinely believe that. And there is not a shred of evidence for that. I just think people that are really honest in their work and in their life, you know, it extends even to things such as like being like, no, I'm going to go to the worst college for my tuition just because I like the name a little more. I think being irrationally honest with yourself in those regards of like, I just kind of have a hunch that I want to go that direction. Following your intuition is something that's so underrated, I guess. I don't know. Like it's so like if I tell you, oh, I did this because it was a gut feeling, you'd be like, that's dumb. You should have used facts and logic and all that cool stuff. But like everyone who's ever done anything is always like, no, I use my intuition. And I think like honesty in those cases is also really important. Like it's more important. I genuinely do believe that people are going to go farther like that. And this manifests itself in relationships, in work, you know, in purpose. I think a great example is the relationship that we all have to content creators that we watched. If I were to show up here every day and like talk about a topic that like I don't really care about, but I know it's trendy, you know? If I was doing this a year ago and I talked about the Drake and Kendrick beef every single day, even though like as much as I was really into it, didn't want to talk about it every day. Say I did that just because I knew it was trendy, I knew it would get clicks. Eventually the cracks will show. Eventually people will be like, he's not that great at this. There's people that care more. There's people that do this better. And then it all falls apart. And obviously that's like a very extreme example of like, you know, someone being dishonest. But I think it even manifests itself in smaller ways of like if I were to record this and not preface of like, this is my second recording, I didn't do that great on the first one. I think eventually if I did something like that every day, you would feel it. I don't know why, I don't know how, but my intuition tells me that like you would. And I think this is one of those areas where I do just like sound insane, especially because like I have nothing to show for this philosophy. It's not like I'm an exceptionally successful person in any regard, you know? Like if it was like, you know, MLK or one of those like amazing people saying this, I think it would be like interesting if someone out there has a theory that I don't know about that's like really did some stuff. But as far as I know, this is just something I kind of think semi-irrationally, to be honest. And I think like over time I've developed it into like very practical ways too. This little like borderline delusion that I have, where so I think that like all of our lives are very complex systems, right? Every single one of them. We have a ton of relationships to uphold. We have a ton of, you know, relationships and jobs, personal life, intermediate acquaintances, you know, third spaces. We have that. We have places we go. We have money that we need to make. We live in this huge system, and our lives in their own right are a huge system, right? So I think, obviously, the famous saying is that the sum of the parts is never equal to the whole, right? The system is never its component, it's so much more. And, sorry, I just read Introduction to Systems Thinking by Donella Meadows. I just finished that book, so I'm thinking a lot about this right now. But I read that a little while ago, so I guess it's still fresh on the brain, because I don't know why I'm going here 100%, but, you know, I think like obviously there are very literal ways of like, you know, feedback loops and things like that do cause systems to not 100% be the same as their parts. But I think honesty is almost an accelerant or a decelerant of how systems function. Like I think if someone is honest every single day, their system will eventually be moving a lot faster and a lot smoother than if someone's lying. And let me put it like this, right? You and a friend are having a conversation. Me and a friend are having a conversation. I lie a little bit to that friend, or I'm being a little, you know, I'm being a little two-faced maybe, or maybe I'm putting on more of a persona because I need to feel cool around them. And they can kind of tell something's a little up, you know, they kind of know, like, huh, this is a little weird. Or they have a little bit of a bad vibe about it, you know. Not necessarily that it's a bad interaction, just like, you know, one of those interactions where it's like, huh, that wasn't great, you know, it's one of those. Then a week later, they're at a party, you know, something like that, just going on. Someone goes, oh, I know, you know, I've been trying to get in touch with him. Do you have his number? You know, something simple, again, like that. And a little look flashes on the person's face when they're like, yeah, I can get that to you. You know, they recall that conversation real quick. And they will just a 2-second, like, before they hand over the number or the social media or whatever it is, right? And again, the other person doesn't say it, but they notice that a little bit, they feel that a little bit in the interaction. So then when they're texting me, maybe they're gonna open with something else than they would have. You know, maybe they overthink it a little more. And then maybe since they're overthinking, it's a little drier of a text, so I respond to it a little differently. Now this interaction isn't going quite as well as it could have. Another person, you know, asks me for their number. They're like, oh, I've heard of that person. I'm trying to get in touch with them. Can you give me their number? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I look back at the text I'm getting and I remember they're kind of a little dry. They see that on my face, or they feel that in the way I give them the number. Then they text that person a little dry too, right? You know, stuff like this happens. You get the point. It turns into a game of telephone of interaction. I think that what we're looking at now is simply because I was putting on a little bit of too much of a persona in one conversation, right? These are now 4 people who are a little wary of each other, when in another reality, if everyone was being honest and having a good time, or just, you know, being real in general, these could have been 4 friends, 4 great interactions, 4 bubbly interactions. It could have been awesome. And now if you imagine that kind of shooting across every interaction in your life, I think that's how I think about honesty showing itself. Because then, simply person 2 that texted me that we had a dry conversation, right? A month later, I'm looking for a job, I'm not doing well, and an opening opens up at their job, right? And they're like, their boss is like, do you know anyone? Maybe they would have thought of me otherwise. They're not gonna now, though. Now I didn't get that job. That doesn't get added to the resume. I'm going for the next job. I'm missing something on the resume. There's a year gap. They think about that. Slowly, these things will manifest themselves in ways that, like, you would just never in a million years think about, And it all comes from how real you are. Or even it can manifest itself. Let's say you're like a little bit more direct of someone who is like kind of a yes man, right? So I say to person A, I'm talking to them, they're like, what do you think of purple turtlenecks? I'm like, I hate purple turtlenecks. They're the dumbest thing in the world. Then next day I'm hanging out with person B, they're wearing a purple turtleneck. I go, that turtleneck looks so awesome on you. I'm doing that thing. Like back to the example, the crew neck. I'm doing that to them. Then, a week later, person A and person B hangs out. Person B wears that crew neck because they got confident on it. They're feeling great about that crew neck, that beautiful purple crew neck. Which I do like, by the way, to put it on the record. I like purple crew necks. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of them, but, would I wear one myself? No. But I have friends that wear purple crew necks. I'm cool with the purple crew neck community. So the point though here is that like person A and person B are hanging out, and person A is like, oh, they make a joke. They're like, who would hate that purple crew neck is Max. He would hate that purple crew neck. He's a purple crew neck hater. He hates these things more than anything ever. He always jokes about them, right? And then person B is like, he complimented my purple crew neck, and they're like, what the heck? Like, why is he like? Does he hate purple crew necks or they love him? Maybe they just laugh it off. They probably would, honestly, because this is a weird scenario to be in. They'd probably just laugh it off and keep it walking. But then, next time they both see me, they're gonna be like thinking about that, like, man, like, I can't ask this guy for any opinions on my clothing. And then suddenly, 2 great friends are now 2 lesser friends because they both know you're a little fibber about purple crew necks. Things like this happen all the time. And I don't mean to say it in a way of like, it's bad. I completely understand why it happens. I'm guilty of it myself, especially before I realized how bad it was. But even to this day, I'm still guilty of it. It's hard to tell people their purple crew neck makes them look bad, It doesn't, ever. I'm a huge purple crew neck fan, and my mind just flashed back to someone I know that does watch my stuff that wears purple crew necks, and if you're watching this, I do like your purple crew neck. I don't know why I went with this example, but the point here is, like, I can't name how many times I've been hanging out with friends, and they're like, gossiping about, like, who is being two-faced about their metaphorical purple crew neck. And you know what? When I've gone and seen those people afterwards, I think those interactions have genuinely went different. So yeah, I think it's genuinely important to be as honestly as possible. Even if it goes as far as saying like, oh, I don't love purple crew necks, but if like, you kind of make this one look good though, even if you want to do it in a way like that, I think it's important to be honest. And I think it is kind of the fuel behind our lives. I don't know, maybe that's a little too much. I haven't thought about it quite enough to say that, but I'm irrational about honesty. And I was supposed to talk about my fixations yesterday, in the Paint&Talk. I promised I'd do that. I'm sure you've forgotten by now, because who else is keeping track? But this is to say, this is one of my fixations, is honesty, is keeping track of other people, for sure. Like, I do notice, I think, more so than I ever have, like, when someone is a brutally honest person or not. But also just in terms of, like, keeping track of my own honesty is probably the place where it manifests itself most. So often after I get done hanging out with someone, or, having small talk with someone, I find myself thinking, like, how real was that? You know what I mean? If they were to hang out with me for 3 hours right now, would they think by the end that I'm the same person they just met in those 2 seconds? I think that obviously sometimes the answer is no. First impressions are first impressions. But I think at least self-reflecting and thinking about these things are very important because, lies are dark magic. Lies are like bad. If you lie enough, you're gonna end up living in it. If you keep telling people their purple crew necks look good, you're gonna end up at Christmas time with 5 purple crew necks. And this is a weird metaphor at this point, but it's more of like in a sense of like, if you keep telling little fibs like that, eventually you will end up living in it. And I truly believe that. And I think that's more in like a sense of like life stuff, Like if you keep telling people like, oh no, I'm really into like being a doctor and I think I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. And you're just kind of saying that because it's a profession everyone's going to like smile at. You know what I mean? Then 10 years later, you just followed through because it was too awkward to ever go back on it. Now you're a doctor or lawyer. Super extreme example, but it shows how having any level of dissidence and like lying to yourself can eventually eat away at you just enough to make it into the truth that you never wanted it to be. And I'm a genuine believer in that. That's why I will always be 100% honest in my actions, and maybe 10 years from now I will be I will regret that. Maybe I'll be like, man, I should have just lied and gone to Wall Street and embezzled funds. But I think in 10 years I'll be happier, even though sometimes decisions might seem unorthodox. You know what I mean? I think in 10 years I'll be much happier because I followed what I wanted to, and I never once lied to myself. So yeah, that was a lot. Second recording definitely went better than the first one. This is the painting. Didn't quite come out how I wanted it to, but I kind of like it at the same time. So yeah, this is not a deep painting. This is just a fun design. Maybe there's some meaning in there about honesty though that I'll write on my Instagram, which you should always check out my Instagram to see this finished painting in its totality, straight on, varnished, dried, and without all these dumb filters that, the CEO of filters makes me put on to these episodes. And until then, put on a purple turtleneck and go out into the world today. Or if you are a purple turtleneck wearer, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so